People of YouTube, how's it going? It's Multiplier here. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to tune a vocal sample if you're using a vocal sample in a sampler. So maybe you've got a bit of a vocal sound you like, bleh, 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 or any other note. And what you want to happen is that if you press a particular note on the keyboard, remember this Ableton Push is just a fancy keyboard, you want to make sure that if you press a particular note, whether it's G3 or A2 or whatever it is, that the vocal comes out at that particular pitch. Therefore, allowing you to play this vocal sample in a sampler as a synth in key with the rest of your track. And so this is how to do it in Ableton, but this does actually apply to every DAW too. The concepts, the principles, the ideas apply literally to every single DAW and every single sampler. Fantastic. First step is find the vocal sample you want to use. What I've done here is get a bit of a gibberish vocal. Bleh, 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 bleh. From my gibberish vocals bit in the music production bundle. Link below. So step one, find the vocal sample you want to use. I have gibberish vocal 95, and the second little thing, drag this vocal, so this is step two now, drag this vocal into a separate channel. You want to analyze it, drag it into a separate channel, make sure it's not being time stretched, which means in the case of Ableton, make sure that warping is off so that you're hearing it at its natural pitch. And then, oh, that's, I could hit play. Hit play, oop bloop. Fantastic, fantastic, love that. Drag the start flag so you're isolating the particular bit that you're playing. Is it the second one? Oh, stop playing. So back over here, back over here. So yep, I have, yes, the second of the 4 bits. Ooh, isolated. Then it doesn't matter how precise you are here. Then grab a spectrum analyzer, mouse, grab a spectrum analyzer to deconstruct it into frequencies. Spectrum analyzer, make it big. That's what she said. Play the sample. Bleh. Fantastic. And take a look at the frequencies. Now what you're looking for here is the pitch of the vocal sample. When you make that was funny because I was trying to make words there. When you're making words, when you talk with your voice, the vowels in particular have a particular pitch. And so when looking at this spectrum analyzer, we're looking for the fundamental frequency, the pitch of the sound. Now, normally this would be the first big peak. So looking at all these peaks, arrows, you can see there's the first big peak, that guy there. And there's also a few other peaks which look quite important too. Now, normally, as I say, this first big peak will be the fundamental frequency of the vocal, effectively the pitch of that vocal sample. But there's a way you can check. And in fact, I do recommend checking this way. And that's also why I like using a spectrum analyzer and not something else. So what you do is you grab your mouse, hover your mouse over the first big peak that you're guessing to be the fundamental frequency, the pitch of the vocal, hover your mouse and read off the value. So it says 181 Hertz. We'll approximate that as 180 Hertz. So it's easier numbers to work with. And then the important concept here is, are the other peaks that we're guessing to be important multiples of this fundamental frequency? And if so, we've guessed correctly. Therefore, this fundamental that we're guessing, 180, we're hoping that these other peaks are multiples of that 180 Hertz. Let's try that one. Fantastic, fantastic. Look at that, everybody. Look at that. 360 approximately. Remember, we did it approximately 180 Hertz or 181 Hertz. In fact, looking at this, if we'd been more precise at 181 Hertz, times that by 2, you get 362. This is good, this is good. This means we've probably guessed correctly. Continue a few more times. Look at the next big peak, and is that maybe 3 times this fundamental that we're guessing? This is an important checking stage. We can get a calculator out for this. 3 times 180, 540-ish, remember. We were doing approximate maths here. So 540-ish, and oh, where's the mouse gone? Hovering our mouse. That's close enough for me. That is close enough. It's in the ballpark of 540-ish. That means we've guessed correctly. We've guessed that this guy, the first big peak, is the fundamental frequency, and therefore mouse went weird there, and therefore that arrow, and therefore that is the fundamental frequency of the vocal. And also, if you play the vocal through, you can normally kind of see it dancing around. The more you do it, the better you get at spotting these things. You can also see the additional peaks further up. An important note here. Oh, wait, before I do that. Once you've found this fundamental frequency, to read it off as a value, as a pitch, you hover your mouse and look down there. In this case, it looks like F#2. Furthermore, a way you can check this is to look at the next peak up, because when you multiply a frequency by 2, that goes up 1 octave. And therefore, the first multiple of the fundamental, so the next big peak you see after the first one, should be the same note as the first one. Therefore, hovering my mouse, we can see this guy is F#2. Therefore, hopefully, fantastic. Mouse keeps slipping, but hovering my mouse, you can see the next one up is also F sharp, in this case, F#3, so 1 octave up. Therefore, I am confident that this is F#2. Remember, the first big peak, the fundamental frequency, is the pitch of the vocal sample, F#2. Remember that, remember that, remember that. And important consideration here is that sometimes a vocal sample will be changing pitch, almost like a pitch envelope on a synth. So that if the vocal sample goes wee or wow or other such vocal things, maybe in a singing voice, basically sometimes the vocal won't be held at a very precise pitch. The pitch may be going up or down or hovering about or wobbling about like vibrato. So it's not a super exact science necessarily, but this is the general principle for finding the pitch of the vocal. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. F#2. Remember that? F#2. The next step is to set the root key or the root note. That's how the sampler knows how to play the vocal correctly in tune, in key, in a particular scale. So in the case of Ableton, it's a bit strange. It's a bit strange because you can't actually do this directly using Simpler. Yes, there's a few fiddly workarounds to sort of make it happen, but if you want to do it easily, you actually need to be using Ableton's sampler, which is its more advanced sampler, Simpler being the simpler sampler. But as I say, this applies to every DAW2 and every sampler, at least every good sampler. So to convert Simpler into sampler, there's a bit of a trick. Right click, Simpler to sampler. Look at that, look at that. And then you can see this option for root key, which I can configure, mouse, which I can configure to be F#2, which is that. And that is it. That is all you need to do to tune the vocal sample in a sampler. Therefore, every note I press on the keyboard will be played at the correct pitch. Bleh, 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 bleh. I imagine you can do something more creative than that. And there you go. That is the basic idea. What I recommend you do is have quite a lot of practice at talking, quite a lot of practice at doing this, getting very fast at setting, or first of all, finding the pitch of the vocal and then setting the root key. And then maybe a few months later, or depending on how much you practice, 6 months or a year later, start to think about how you might tune in a more fine way, fine tuning. Taking a vocal that's maybe D sharp, but close to D, so more D sharp than D, but not in the middle of D sharp. Think about how you might tune it closer to the middle of D sharp. Have a think about it, have a think about it. I mean, what I might do is give you a clue. Look at the screen, look at the screen. Let's focus on the sampler. We can focus, so editing, etc. One of those controls might allow you to do this fine tuning. It's a lot more fiddly and I definitely don't recommend learning it initially, but for those who maybe have seen this before and tried it and feel pretty comfortable at finding the pitch of a vocal sample and setting the root key, have a play around with this more fine-tuning. And there you go. My name has been Multiplier, and I will catch you guys on the... My name has been Multiplier, and I will catch you guys on the flippity flip. That's not really different. Don't get this is something completely different. Maybe I'll do that in a fun